laptop. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:35. First order of business is approval of the September 2024 minutes.
Okay, so I have two questions.
Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make motion.
Seconded?
Second.
Okay, open for discussion. Mary?
Yes, thank you. So I was looking at the minutes, and there are some issues I have with the minutes from last month. There were several unanswered questions that didn't come back on the agenda for this month. First of all, Nixon asked about the meeting with Deep, and was it rescheduled? I understand it was canceled because Deep didn't have enough people were on vacation. But how?
I'm sorry, Mary. Does this have anything to do with the accuracy of the minutes of last month?
It does. It has to do with the follow-up of the meeting of the minutes.
No, it doesn't. No, Mary. We're just trying to approve. Okay. We're just trying to approve the minutes of last month. Are the minutes accurate?
Okay. I guess if you want to say they're accurate without including everything that was discussed last month, is that what you're saying? There were things that were omitted from the minutes that were discussed last month. May I continue? There are things
that are missing from the minutes?
Yes, that were discussed last month.
Okay. Now just list what you believe are missing, please.
Okay. I'm going to resend that. There are issues listed. Let me make my statement. There were issues listed in last month's meeting that did not make the agenda for this month. And I guess
all right. So that has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with the accuracy of last month's minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess we'll get to that later then, right?
We're going to follow our agenda and see if any of those issues pops up.
I guess my question is, why aren't they on the agenda if there were open issues?
All right, Mary, yes, please. We are only here, this motion, please don't drag out these meetings. We are here to approve.
Not my intent.
We are here to approve the accuracy of last month's minutes. That's on the agenda. Number 2, approval of the minutes. It has nothing to do with discussions on what's on this agenda. So if you have no objections, does anyone else have any objections to last month's minutes?
Oh my God.
Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
We already have that.
Oh, that's right.
All
right, we'll just call a vote. I'll do a roll call vote. Dennis?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Dimitri?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5-0.
Can I just ask you a question?
We have a quorum.
Doesn't matter. You have absent people.
I don't think I need to swear anyone in unless I don't have a quorum.
Okay.
Budget update and expenses. Andrea, this is your department.
Hi, everyone.
Let me try to share that.
So there's 3 items on the agenda related to the budget. The first one is what expenses were incurred last month, and we had the clerk for $93 and $444 for legal. Total expenditure was $537. Current expenditure to date was $3,969. And we spent about 5% of our budget so far. So our remaining balance is $83,903. Next item on the agenda for my report. We are looking into the Clean Water Fund is closing out, and we do have some deadlines to meet, and we're looking in to see if there's any other reimbursements that we can get from the clean water funds. We believe there might be. So, Martha, we were gonna see if you could work with us to make sure we get invoices by Friday, so we can go through those with the state and see if there's anything that we're eligible to collect.
So I told Anita that you were willing to come in tomorrow. She said, if you want to email her either later tonight or first thing in the morning, tell her what it is you need and then come in later. They can work through it with you. But that way they'll have a heads up to start looking for stuff.
So,
Can they
Rich,
search by vendor?
yeah, by vendor. So these would be,
Woodward and Curran.
Woodward and Curran.
What they can do is they'll pull up your account number and then pull up all the invoices. It'll
Right.
show them everything that's been charged to the account.
Right.
And she'll know which.
Think of anything else besides them that might apply?
How about the
That could've-
study?
That could have been,
Were you talking about, I'm not really sure what you,
so the clean water funds, we haven't submitted, enough invoices that would have been covered under the clean water fund. So I did the bolus that we had that weren't paid, but we believe that we may have paid them already and we can get reimbursed for some of those.
from the
So,
design
Let me,
point of
let me
view?
clarify.
Yeah.
Yes, from
Yes.
design, it's a
Yeah.
55% grant for certain items. I think the EIE study, for instance, may be applicable to that reimbursement money. How about the study for, Miami,
Hawks Nest?
Hawks Nest? Those types. Actually, why don't we just print them all out and send out all the ones that we've,
That's what Dave Roberge does every time. He sends them in and. he
send them,
goes, if
send
they
them
don't
all,
want
send them
first,
all
you
out
find
and
them.
they'll decide.
I
Far
wasn't
back.
under the impression that we had not collected money. The problem in the past was those design studies. The money did not go back to the WPCA. We submitted in our design part additional items. And I understood we got the money back. I mean, the town did, but not the WPCA.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get paid. I don't think the WPCA will.
I said, that's the only reason is I also didn't have visibility to the payments coming back.
So,
So
according-
recent things, I thought we were up to date, but it's not a bad idea to check.
All right.
so my question then is by vendor, just the engineers?
No, I,
Who are we adding to?
why not, get the list and send it to Rich and myself or anyone, I guess, on the committee? And we can probably guide you. I mean, I don't know if the study for Hawks Nest is reimbursable or not, but I would send that one out too.
It is up to 55%.
Right.
Lee Rogers knows what's,
Yes,
what's
that's
done
what
and
I'm
not.
working with.
and Wood and Curran knows what they've invoiced us for. So they have to invoice us and then we got to submit it. And there might be some things that Wood and Curran did not invoice us for.
Maybe. I don't think so. Well,
I don't think, no, I don't think so, but I said, I think we're up to date, but I mean, if you're talking about checking,
Yeah.
Right.
those are the two sources that I go to.
Well,
So you said one
Lee-
vendor. Any other payers?
we need to look at the list.
We
of
went
people
through
that
Wood and
invoiced us.
Curran to pay people. We didn't, I don't believe we had anyone else, with the exception of, the surveyor.
Right, so let's look at the list. Let's get a list of everyone that was paid out of our account
Yeah, okay.
and then, get the invoices that we think are applicable.
Will they reimburse you for your legal fees to review your contracts?
I don't know about that one.
I was told no.
Okay.
I was,
Legal fees to acquire land for the projects,
No.
but not legal fees to think about strategy or adjustment or
Well, more contractual stuff because.
Hey,
that's legit
like
too.
the agreements between that was definitely, they said no. It
Okay.
doesn't hurt to keep submitting it though.
right, I mean, we could submit anything that is project related, I would think, and let them decline it versus censoring it ourselves.
Question, when's the deadline?
Soon,
Well, it's soon.
very soon.
Lee sent me an email this note is due in November, for the design. And we have an option of rolling that over into a IFO, interim financial obligation, which would be basically if we had construction going on. We can get an extension also. I think we may need to get an extension to then roll it over into the IFO.
I did send that to him. You saw that?
Yeah, I saw that. So, we'll have to think about that,
We'll get an answer.
but we'll get an answer.
Okay, so I'm asking for the surveyors, Woodland and Curran. Hawks Nest study is part of the surveyors, right?
Yeah, but there's also the testing labs. I mean,
That's what
so
I
I
thought.
think, I think
These are
that,
an example.
I think that, yeah, for an example, but just ask for all of them. We
I
we
did.
don't write many out from
Okay.
this.
No, I did
Account.
ask for all.
Okay.
That I gave an example.
Okay, the next item, I sent,
Hold on, I got one more.
Okay.
Non-binding approval of the CSA.
right, that's
That's
what I
my
was,
last one.
okay.
Okay, so back on August 12th, August 13th, we received an invoice for the cost sharing agreement from Old Colony Beach WPCA chairperson. And we didn't have the funds at the time, but we do now because our carry forward went through. And the invoice is in the amount of $39,240.87. And this is a multi-year invoice. Money's been spent, and this is part of our obligation to move forward with this cost sharing agreement. So we have the money. I want to bring that to everyone's attention and make a motion to, I don't know if I need a motion because it's already expensed and it's in the budget. So I just want everyone to know that this invoice came in. It was budgeted, it was approved by the finance committee, and it's a large number, so I want to make sure everyone's aware that we're going to process this invoice. Any discussion about that?
We owe this money. It would have been a lot worse if we did it on our own. The private beach associations have been very patient. You look at some of these dates going back to 2020, 2021.
Yeah, they're pretty long.
We were involved in discussions with them. We knew this was going on. Their structure is a little maybe different than you would think, that they'd have one association that pays bills and then the other ones reimburse them. That's kind of how we're operating with them at the moment. We have an agreement to join the cost sharing agreement. We have a discussion about joining the cost sharing agreement. And I just point out that, you know, the shared pump station, something like $16 million. That would cost us that much if we did it on our own, which is crazy. So working with them saves us money. To me, I'm leading up to, we pay it.
So I do have one clarification, and you probably will both know this. The invoice says, make the check out to Old Colony Beach Club Association, but it also says Water Pollution Control Authority. So does it go to the Beach Club Association or does it go to both?
No, it goes
To the WPCA for them?
It says Old County Beach Club Association, WPCA.
It would be like the old line WPCA.
Yes.
It's just a
Okay.
longer name.
I just wanted to make sure because it's two lines of who it
It's-
goes to.
You can put it down as OLBA,
Yes.
WPCA.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
All
So everyone knows that will be.
Is there any other
posted to
comments
go
on
for
this?
payment.
I'd like to make a comment on this. It's pretty much the same as Rich's. Whether we join the CSA or not, we have signed agreements saying we would join, and they've taken actions on behalf of us. We've incurred 29.7% of $132,000, which equals 39,240 and change. And we knew this bill was coming. We budgeted for it for this year. It was approved by the Board of Finance. And so, I would like to actually have a motion to approve this to pay, even though we don't need it.
Make a motion that we pay.
Seconded.
All right. Take a roll call vote. Dennis?
Discussion.
Oh, discussion?
No.
No, you don't want, no, no.
There
Okay,
are things on there that I have questions on.
okay. That would have probably been part of the discussion if you want discussion.
You can discuss anything you want.
Well, okay. I have issues with, Pond Road. Why are we, being tagged into Pond Road when that's a Miami Beach bill? The same with, Brendan Sharkey, which is a Old Colony. Obviously, there's nothing in there that I could see that has anything to do with Old Lyme or Soundview or miscellaneous Area B.
Okay. I don't see it that way. I see the property purchases as purchasing property to support a shared pump station that we agreed to pay 29.7% of the costs. So if the land is purchased, why do you feel as though we shouldn't pay for it, our share of it?
It's a vacant piece of property right now.
It
There is nothing on there.
was
It's
purchased.
got water in it, as a matter of fact, today.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're buying a piece of, to put a pump station on versus putting a pump station on the town parking lot. So one way or other, we're gonna be owning some piece of property.
It's already been purchased.
It's already been
Yes.
purchased, and it was purchased under the agreement that Old Line was gonna pay 29.7% of the cost. So you add up all the costs here, and we are paying 29.7%. You don't, when you buy land for a house, it doesn't have a house on it, has land, it's still worth something. I mean,
Yeah, but we have no cost sharing agreement with them right now.
we have an agreement to join the cost sharing agreement. You
Yeah.
can't, right? So they've made all these expenses under the assumption, not under the assumption, under the agreement that we are going to join and pay 29.7%. We've budgeted, we're ready to pay it, whether we join or not. I believe we should join, but whether we join or not, we still owe the money. And so,
We also had this discussion in previous meetings, not this year, years ago. As this is part of our plan versus putting our own pump station next to it. And ironically, the pump station's locations are two locations like next to each other. So,
And the original plan was in the town parking lot.
correct.
Correct.
Town
Correct.
property.
correct. And
They would have to pay the town
no,
their share.
no, they wouldn't have to pay the town anything. They could just build their own. You could have two pump stations there.
And they were supposed to build their own in between Old
Right.
Colony and
So-
Old Lyme Shores.
So are you proposing to spend more money? Would you feel more comfortable?
That we look at what we are actually being asked to pay.
This is what we're asked to pay 29.7% of $132,124.14. Of costs that I've looked at and believe are all associated with the items that were agreed to be shared in the cost sharing agreement and signed onto by previous administrations via the agreement to join the cost sharing agreement.
That's my view.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
I would like to mention, I looked at the Woodward and Curran 2017 Coastal Wastewater Management Plan. And according to that plan, we are 28.5%. How did we get to be 29.75?
It's
Because in that
simple.
plan, we are 28%. Mhm.
All right. So that discussion doesn't go under this.
It does in a way.
I think
Well,
it, I
does
think
he
it does
use
beg,
it?
No,
it does beg the
it
question,
doesn't,
how we got to
it
be
doesn't, so,
20.75 of anything.
so the agreement that has been signed by other administrations set out of cost sharing had a percentage that Old Lyme would pay 29.7%.
I think if she's talking about it's our 270 hasn't changed, but some of the other EDUs have changed.
Correct.
And that's the explanation. But we agreed to the 270.
29.7.
And I want to point out something that the private beach associations, it was not something simple. Say, oh yeah, sure, 29 or 26%. They originally didn't want to participate with us. They thought we should be paying way, way more. And we had to argue and negotiate and debate down to that. But then it comes down to, what do you agree to? So the 270 is the starting point and it's the legacy, but you're eventually agreeing to percent ownership. And in a perfect world, we get everything you want. We don't live in a perfect world.
No, I think we live in a data-driven world, and the data doesn't support 29.7, according to Woodward and Curran, and according to the EIA.
So that 28 point something number was a preliminary number based on the data at that time. And that's what
Yes.
Rich is talking about, that things have changed a little bit
Right.
since
Oh,
that
things
time.
have
So it's
changed.
like,
Mary-
it's like a
Mary-
We're
10
talking
Mary-
about 1%.
Mary, how many EDUs did Woodward and Curran say Old Lyme was going to have in that study?
Would you like to talk about EDUs?
Well, how many EDUs? Because you're asking how this figure was done. It's 270 divided by the total amount of EDUs. So has Old Lyme's EDUs changed?
Yes.
We've changed our EDUs from one EEI study to the other?
Certainly we should
No.
have, because.
Well,
excuse me,
no, that's not the question. The question is, have
If
we?
I can't speak, I should just hang up. If I can't speak at all, Steve, what's the point?
Well, I'm
you
just
gonna
asking a simple question. Have the EDUs changed?
I think they should have,
But they
because the
haven't.
environment has certainly changed.
But they haven't
But
changed.
this is John Fleck. Again, I'm an alternate, but Mary should have versus we're in fact based right now. You're putting supposition in, and it's just agonizing to listen to. You can't put supposition in. This is what it is. Let's get on with it.
I want to understand how we went to 29.7 when in Woodward and Curran and the EIA, your Bibles here, stipulate 28.5. How did we jump to 29.7? And then in the New London Agreement, we jumped into 31% when it comes
We
to
don't
the
go-
hookup fees.
The 31%, I don't know what you're talking about now, but let's just stick to the 1% difference you're talking about. 270 EDUs has not changed. The other beach associations had adjusted their EDUs. So it changed the total number, and that changed the 1%. The question is, do you want to change the whole agreement to say for 1% change, we're going to now get them to like change that percentage point? We went through debating
not
all
that-
this, and like I said, during the time,
No,
they were saying, you're not 29%, we want you to pay half.
there's in my view, there's no debate on this. We agreed to pay 29.7%.
But I'm just saying the history of getting there. When I first
Right.
approached the beach associations, they're saying, no, you guys are going to use way, way, way more, and you have to pay way, way more. Oh, and by the way, we don't need you. We don't want part of you. So build your own pump station next to ours. In which case,
Fine.
we would save 1% or not have to worry about the 1%, but then spend 16 million.
So
And I
you
think
just
maybe
agreed-
that's your. Go
I
ahead.
guess
Sorry.
I'm asking, you agree to that, knowing that those numbers were not correct, knowing.
No.
based
No,
on
that's
the
not true.
EIA,
No,
knowing-
I didn't agree to it because of.
It's the Woodward and Curran report and the EIA, and they both say that you're 28.5%.
We didn't
I don't know
agree
who
to.
came up with 29.7%.
Mary,
Mary, it's Martha. If I do the simple math, 909 homes in the 4 beach associations, that is what shows on the assessor's
land, 909 homes. If you take 909, you divide it by 100%, and you then multiply by the 270 that are in Soundview, it comes up to 0.297, 29.7%. It's exactly what it comes to.
I was just looking at the EIE and the Woodward and Kern reports.
I understand,
Right,
but there
so-
were things that were signed by past people and it came to 29.7 and they've been signed. So how it got there, I
Thank
don't
you.
know. I inherited it, but I did the math and it's 29.7.
And so we can't correct it.
But we,
There's nothing to correct. You can't vote to change terms of a contract.
we don't.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Is there any other discussion?
Let's vote on it.
I'm sorry?
Let's vote on it. You said,
Yes. Okay. I'd like to call a vote. It'll be by roll call. Dennis,
No.
Andrea,
Yes.
Dimitri,
yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Rich.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1. Thank you, Andrea. Could you ask Anita to pay that invoice?
did
please?
already.
Thank you.
Casey.
Okay, let me go to my next item. That's a agenda.
It's the IMA status with New London. Would you like to know?
I
Chairman's report.
Chairman's report, the IMA status in New London, with New London. So I've heard a lot about the IMA status with New London today. Apparently it was up for vote by the Board of Selectmen last night. And it was moved to another date pending Selectman Lampos's concerns. And I have some comments on his concerns because I think some of his concerns don't.
Those are not the concerns that were sent to the lawyer on the IMA. Those were not the concerns. He has 4 questions that were asked about the IMA agreement. And if you're going to talk about the IMA agreement, he had 4 questions. They were sent to Mike Carey. Unfortunately, because of my husband's illness last week, I did not hit send until Friday night.
Right.
They have them. They have not responded.
All right, so he said a lot of other things at that meeting that concerned me more, such
About
as,
the IMA.
well, he said it was about the IMA. He indicated that he didn't like the agreement with East Line, which is a signed intact agreement. I don't
He
know.
hasn't seen, he asked for this agreement with these.
Right.
He hasn't.
So
seen it.
I don't have the minutes to the meeting. I don't have the video. So I will just say that I believe what's going to happen here. If we do not sign the IMA, DEP will allow the beach associations to bid their projects out.
I had a lovely conversation with you today.
I believe that in the end, the shared infrastructure will go on without us. The 3 beach associations will have sewers that pay for it 50%. And I believe that the 50% funding for us will be reduced down to 25%. I don't understand why for the last 10 years, we've gone down a road of installing sewers. And now there is a resistance to moving this forward. And I understand that everyone has to do their due diligence. However, I think that reviewing documents that have basically not changed except for clarification and then starting this process over is causing problems with the 3 beach communities, with the DEP, and with people on this committee. That being said, the next item on here is CSA review. Everyone was sent the CSA.
Well, Steve, sorry to interrupt. Are we still talking about the IMA? Did we,
Well, the IMA was not approved.
well, can we approve it? Our part of it?
We've approved it. we've approved it for Martha's signature, for
Okay,
the first selectman's signature 2 months ago.
okay.
All right.
Is there questions
That
about?
is not exactly true, Steve, because it was just changed 2 weeks ago. So
No,
Well,
no, we did approve, we approved it barring major changes. There was no major changes.
Well, is there something that we need to talk about that are questions? Or should I just be quiet?
the lawyer has the 4 questions that Jim asked, and he will get back to Jim, and then Jim will be comfortable or uncomfortable voting for it. Voting for me to sign it.
And there's nothing for us to worry about with these questions or participate in? Or
Jim's online if you want to talk to him. I just don't know if he can. But
Yes,
Steve,
I-
if
I-
online,
I'm
tell
here
me.
if you- to say anything.
Jim, do you want to speak for yourself? Because I don't like to speak for you.
If Steve wants me to weigh in at this point, I certainly would.
I would, since I don't know what the questions are, yes, it's a document that both of us sign.
Okay, well, first of all, the bulk of my remarks last night were to basically say that I would like to address some questions that are in the CSA that haven't been really
Jim,
vetted
could you
yet.
just limit your stuff to the IMA?
Okay, I'll talk about the IMA. But the reason why I wanted to hold up, one of the reasons to hold up the vote on the IMA was I would think we should address some of these other questions now. Because once we sign the IMA, that train starts rolling down the track. So
Jim,
let
it's
me-
hard. Jim,
Yes.
speak slower into your phone because it's muddling.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm just looking for my notes right now. Well, one of the questions I have about the IMA is about our share of capital costs and how everything is monitored coming into New London. It appears that New London will be getting water use data. Is that true? As a
No,
way of monitoring flow?
no, that's not true.
It's going to be meters coming out of the private beaches.
No, it's going to be 1 meter coming out of our pump station.
So it's just going to be aggregate.
Effluent flow.
Effluent flow coming out of the pump station. Yes, it's
right,
aggregate.
That's what New London gets. Okay, so they'll be billing capital costs, basically the combined, 1.5% for the PBAs and the 0.5% for the town. Is that correct?
It's
I
total.
don't know if it's, I don't think it's, I don't know what theirs is. I think it's 1.2%.
Okay.
And ours is 0.5.
It's
But-
our capacity times their total plant capacity.
Yeah,
So
it's actually divided, but
300,000 gallons divided by 10 million.
yeah,
Okay.
it would be, yeah, it's a percentage of usage. So if they're processing 7 million gallons a day and we're
Mhm.
adding 125,000 gallons, it's 125,000 divided by 7 million.
Okay, so when it gets to our billing, the billing that we're doing from our end, so New London is going to send one bill basically for the combined project, the PBAs and the town. Is that correct?
Correct.
In terms of capital costs.
Well, I think one bill in terms of everything, but maybe line itemed capital costs,
Right.
usage
Right.
fees, right?
Okay. So that we're getting one bill from them. How do we allocate this here? Do we allocate this on our end to individuals based on their usage, based on water use, or do we split it down on in terms of aggregate use in the different associations?
So that's Jim, that's a two answer question.
Okay.
Okay. We have pretty much agreed that to get the usage by each individual WPCA, we're going to meter each house.
Right.
Either get data from Connecticut Water
Right.
or meter the house. If they don't want us to meter it, then we'll have a formula where they're going to be paying the highest price that someone's charged so that it incentivizes them to put a meter on the house so we know how much water they're using. from their well, so that we know how much they're contributing to the system. Okay, now that's how the usage between each individual WPCA will be determined. That's how the percentage will be determined. Right now, we're using EDUs, 29.7. But if it turns out that Soundview is only using 20% of the total effluent going to London, our customers or whatever, our responsibility to the system is going to be 20%.
Okay, so I guess that's the
Okay,
question.
now the second part of your question, I hate to interrupt, but there's a second part. It's up to the individual WPCAs how they want to bill their customers. So we may use metering to bill our customers also. And it seems very logical to do that. Maybe Old Colony says we want one set price for everyone, and they bill that way. I mean, it's not a one size fits all. The way to determine the fair share, each person's share of usage, is via metering. I can't prescribe to the other three WPCAs how they should be billing their customers.
Thought we were going to have a new WPCA which would decide that.
We may have a new WPCA to decide that, but that hasn't happened either. So I believe in the long run, there'll be one WPCA in this town and they'll decide all of this. However, right now, I can't tell well, there's 3 plus Point of Woods, 4 other WPCAs how to bill their customers.
But basically, no one's billing their customers for affluent at this point.
Well, Point of Woods has been doing that for years.
Not talking about Point of Woods right now. I'm talking
Correct.
about the
No
ones
one,
that are-
has, there's no reason because there's no effluent flowing. There's no system. So,
All right, Steve, I'm less concerned about how the WPCA's bill within their organization as I am about allocation among the WPCAs. So let's say, for example, we have one beach association that people have average water use, but there's one super user, right? There's this one user that's really sucking it down. So they're bumping up the aggregate cost for that beach community in terms of capital costs. If they're billed individually across the board, then that wouldn't be a problem. Whoever uses the most pays the most. But if you have two people that are sort of, blowing a hole through the wall in terms of usage within an association, that would raise the percentage of capital costs that they would have to pay. It would raise the share, the aggregate share that they would be charged for. Is that incorrect?
no, I don't think it's typical math. The more you use, the more percentage. But
That's not, I think, what he's saying.
Is the question actually about capital costs? That is it going to still be in the future 29.7%, or is it going to be based on metering in the future?
So we're talking
I
processing
believe
fee versus capital.
it's,
Let's separate those two.
I believe the new CSA, which I have on here that I've shared with everyone via email. Let me go to that section.
I don't think we're
I think-
proposing.
I think it's all based on usage, Jim, but let me look.
Okay.
I think that's the processing and maintenance, not the capital. But to the point of the scenario, the what if one household blows through their volume and uses like crazy amounts, like let's say they have an open water leak or something, or
Right.
maybe they're flushing the toilet every 3 seconds,
Right.
Or the sump pump.
or they sump pump whatever. Unless we charge per house dynamic pricing, then they probably would get a break and raise everyone else's cost. However, we would see that data
Mm-hmm.
and we could probably do a special assessment on somebody saying, because there's an example of a house where they got a broken water pipe all summer long and they use crazy amount of water. And the water company sends them a bill for, instead of $70, it's 7,000.
Yeah.
They find a way right away to fix that pipe. They also probably go to the water company and say, sorry, I can't pay this. It's crazy. And maybe they get some kind of state fund. I don't know.
So Jim, that your question is handled in Exhibit C in the CSA.
Right. I saw that it will be based on the EDUs that we have in place for the first 2 years, and then based on flow for the year 3
Correct.
going
Correct.
forward.
And the
going
2
forward.
years is to get everyone uh, everyone connected to the system, or at least
Right.
a good portion of everyone connected to the system.
Now,
Um,
does that and that applies to New London as well? New London, our share of their capital costs could fluctuate based on flow.
It does fluctuate based on flow.
Okay.
Capital costs.
Capital
The
does.
capital costs, I don't know. I don't think,
it's-
no, the capital costs, I think, is set at 1.2 and
set.
0.5%.
At 0.5% for the next 20 years
Correct.
of their budget, regardless of what we pump into that treatment facility.
Correct.
Because
Okay.
that's buying capacity.
We're
Okay.
buying capacity, not usage. The
Okay.
usage fees, like the treatment fees, will be based on flow.
Right.
But the capital,
Okay.
you're right, the capital is set at 0.5%.
Okay. Next concern, the indemnification clauses seem to me to be pretty extreme. New London and the beaches are saving each other harmless, even if deaths result from negligence and willful misconduct. And, I don't see that in, let's say, the East Lyme IMA, unless I missed it. That seems to leave the homeowners on the hook for legal bills if there's, as they say, willful misconduct, negligence that results in deaths. The beaches and the town are holding New London harmless, and New London holds the town harmless. It seems to me that somewhere along the line, the homeowner, ends up holding the bag on legal bills if there is misconduct, if, for any reason the flow stops into New London. If you could speak to the logic behind that, it might help me understand it.
Well, I don't believe that, this IMA was reviewed by Mike Carey, the WPCA attorney and the town attorney. And he agreed to that language. I'm not sure. Well,
It's great
It's
for the
mutual
town.
it's
indemnification.
mutual indemnification.
It's great for the
it's
town.
not-
I don't know if it's
I-
great for the homeowner.
Well, the homeowner's not charged personally for it. The town would be, but
The homeowners don't have a contract with New London. The homeowners don't have a contract with New London. We have a contract with we don't. We will maybe have a contract
You will.
with New
Don't be
London.
Such a negative person. You will. You just have to wait.
Let the record show.
That's good news to hear.
So, I don't, that question has to be answered by Mike. I'm not an attorney, but
Yeah,
the way I
well,
read it is,
I'm just telling you, you wanted to know what questions I was asking Mike. That's one of them. I wanted Mike to talk to that.
okay. Is there-
So I'm doing this off the top of my head. So, sorry that I'm a little stumbly here.
Sorry, I didn't bring your list.
Yeah. Let me think for a second here. Okay. Oh, the other one was about adding capacity jointly. Now we have that 130,000 gallon reserve that we can call upon if necessary. And the New London IMA makes it clear that we have to do that jointly, the town and the private beaches. So I'd like to know what the logic is behind having to do it jointly. Number two, they say that they can deny a request for increased capacity based on their capacity, but we can't deny a request to have that capacity used. So my concern is not so much, people talk about Hawks Nest and everything. My concern is that there is a large project proposed in a part of town that's not necessarily contiguous to our project. They want to use that 130,000 gallon capacity. And there would have, and we would be compelled, if they come in, say under 830G, and they fly over zoning, that we would be compelled to connect them and use that capacity, according to the way the IMA is written. As long
I
as it
don't,
wasn't on the other side of town, but if it was, say, a mile away.
I
And
don't agree that, I don't agree with that. You'd have to ask Mike about that, but I believe the IMA says that we cannot, connect anyone outside of our territory.
well, we don't have our
And
territory.
Old Lyme,
specified,
we
right?
represent Old Lyme. So
Right.
So the beach
Well, it would be-
associations can't connect, the beach associations can't connect anyone they want, but we can, Old Lyme can connect anyone in their territory. We've
Right.
purchased capacity. So if that made up hypothesized community wants to get hooked up, and we as a community feel it's a project worth doing and want to go down this road, I don't know why anyone would ever want to do this again, but let's say they want to do that. I believe we have the capacity to purchase that, to draw on that 130,000 gallons, not because of the language in the IMA stating that we couldn't sell it to Old Saybrook, say, but as long as it's a place in Old Lyme, we'd be able to use it.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is in Old Lyme. I mean, say, a national developer comes in and they buy up 100 acres and they want to put 500 units on those 100 acres. Now, these numbers may not make total sense in terms of the gallons per day, but say it's going to be a large project. It's going to be 2 miles away from the beaches, so it's something we can connect. And they want the 130,000 gallons, but the town looks at it and says the scale of this project, the location of this project, there's a lot of problems with this. We don't want this, but under 830G, we have no choice. Zoning doesn't apply. Does New London at that point say, hey, these guys want to connect? You have to have them connect. You have to make them, you have to let them connect based on this IMA, this agreement we're signing. Because it says that we can't unreasonably deny.
So
we can't.
So number one, I mean, this is so hypothetical, Jim. I don't even know where to begin. I don't think I don't think the town has to pay for the sewers, number one. So it'd have to be a viable option 2 miles away for the guy to hook up into our system. Number two, you're right, under that and what is it, low income housing, we can't deny them based on just, we don't want you to connect to our sewer system. If we're able to handle their flow, we probably would have to handle their flow. Nothing in it says that we have to pay for them to hook up. It's the other way around. They have to pay to hook up into our system. But I don't think that I don't believe, I didn't interpret it, and I don't believe that New London has the control over telling us we have to allow someone to connect. That is not how I read that at all. But again, I'm not an attorney. Mike carries the attorney. So I thank you for sharing your concerns with us, and I'm glad I can help you out on the terms. But as far as shared indemnity and this other hypothetical that you're talking about, I didn't read it that way. I don't think Mike read it that way because he didn't seem to have a problem with it. But I guess you'll need to wait for an answer from Mike on that.
Yeah, I posed the questions, why I anticipated having some sort of answer, at this point, or at least before the IMA came before us. So those were, I may have another question, and I don't recall off the top of my head right now, but they're in Mike's hands, and so I'm waiting for an answer on that. But the broader point I was making last night, I won't take up any more time, so I know you guys have a lot to do tonight. The broader point I was trying to make last night is that when this IMA is signed, we've pretty much, it's pedal to the metal. This project is moving forward, and there's a lot of issues I think that are still unresolved, especially within the CSA, and I'd like to have that discussion soon, like now, because essentially once we sign this, it's a done deal, and then we're going to bid, and then the bids are going to come in, and there's a time frame on that where we're going to have to accept the bids, and then a time frame for shovels to be in the ground, and there'll be even more pressure to sign a CSA, and it's less the IMA that I'm concerned with than the CSA, and there are some costs that I would like delineated. You've done a good job in delineating the updated costs on our construction end, but there's conveyance cost to East Lyme. There's still unclear to me. There's percentage of capital in East Lyme that's unclear to me. So I'd like to have some of those costs laid out. I'd like to have the EDU discussion had. So I think all of that can move very quickly if we can have some of these unknowns at least sketched in, and not be quite so unknown at this point. That's where I'm at in terms of being more comfortable with this.
All right, well, if you want to meet with me or the committee as a whole to go over your concerns on the CSA, I'd be more than happy to entertain that. You can email me sometimes and I'll be more than happy to meet. Anything I can't get addressed, I'll try to get answers for you as quickly as possible. The CSA is important, but it's not necessary to bid by any of the parties.
It'll be necessary to accept the bids, though.
No, it's not.
So we can go into construction and not have a CSA.
Yes,
We could be left behind.
As a matter of fact, that's what the beach associations are suggesting at this point. So
They, not we, going into construction. They would be going in.
They would go into construction.
They would be going into construction. So they would be doing their internal infrastructure as well as the shared infrastructure. They just wouldn't be including us. Which brings us to a nice segue into my C. Jim, is there anything else before? I know you said that was it, but
I think we'll address. We'll talk. Outside of this meeting.
Okay.
All
right.
Coming up this week.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your input and questions. So the next item is drawing status. We have comments, or Woodward and Curran has comments. I've seen them. They're about 5 or 6 or 7 pages long on the drawing status on the 90%. Most of them deal with, regulations and wording per government contracts. If anyone wants to see the comments, email me and I'll send you the list. I didn't even go through it. It's all change this word to this, change this word. It's stuff that's in a standard contract that has changed since the original contract was drawn up. But I'll be more than happy to forward that to anyone. Update with regards to Old Lyme Shores, Old Colony, Miami Beach. We've been in discussions, in conversation, mainly about the IMA status and the CSA status, as well as going out to bid. They are under a hard deadline to switch their design loan into a interim funding obligation, which requires them to go out to bid and have construction start before, I think, January 31st, so that they can roll their $3 million or thereabouts loan into a construction loan. We are responsible. Old Lyme is responsible for 29.7% of the shared infrastructure design process. And I don't have that number in front of me now. It's not anywhere near $3 million. But it is an obligation that we would also be responsible for. Update on, item E, update on CT dot to review Brook Crossing on Route 156. We had a meeting with, BL Engineering that represents CT dot on the two bridges. It was constructive in that they've put a fire under Fuss and O'Neill to get all the information and drawings that they needed. They were emailed out to BNL, BL last Friday afternoon. And so I guess they're reviewing it and trying to incorporate those drawings in with the CT dot, drawings.
They're slated to go 2025. DOT sent me notification last week.
Yeah. I know. DEE forgivable loan status, as far as I know, that's on track. Old Colony is taking on, that whole loan for the shared infrastructure, as pretty much an administrator of the loan, as well as the guarantor of the loan, to ensure that, the bills go through them for all the shared infrastructure, as is outlined in the CSA. There was, item G is zoning for the project. There was questions on zoning for the pump station as well as the bioxide. I came in and talked with, Eric, about, the pump station. I think we pretty much answered all his questions on the pump station. He had some comments, that I have as correspondence, that I'll probably enter into the record. The bioxide, he didn't have drawings for the bioxide. We've put them in touch with Fuss and O'Neill, who I believe has sent them everything that, the town needs to verify that, indeed we do have zoning for the bioxide
He has,
as well.
he's gone over the paperwork for the bioxide, and that is correct, but there was a problem with the new drawing for the pump station.
Yeah, the stairs are
The
too
stairs,
wide.
so he's gonna fix that.
Yep. And so, the zoning is pretty much all set for that, contingent on resizing the outside stairs. 3/4 of a foot less in width. Old business. Well, are there any other questions on the chairman's report? All right, old business. CWF construction application. I keep this on here just to get an idea of where we're at, Rich.
I haven't really made any progress on that, but the next big thing we do is, we have to define how much money we want. And it's a challenge because it's asking for money to be set aside before we go out to bid to find out how much it costs. That's how a process works. So we'll use estimates from the past, a contingency fee, recommendations from the state, because they usually add in other things. It doesn't mean you spend that money. It means your application goes in and then it gets approved and it says, okay, you have that money to draw from. And as I understand it, let's say we go out to bid and it's less, that's not a problem. If it's more, or if there's like a function, like a line item that we need more, we can amend our application and go for more. So we want to make sure it's right and we agree to it, but it doesn't mean it's like you have one shot at doing this.
We'll look towards Woodland Current.
Yep.
Also, maybe you could help me. I'm under the impression that the design note takes us from preliminary design through the bidding process. and construction takes over after the bid. Is that
It-
correct?
It depends on the engineering company you choose. We've chosen one that does that.
Okay. So we should ask for an extension on our design if it's going to expire in November. Because they won't pay an invoice after it expires.
I'm not sure I follow you.
So our design note expires this November. And we will have to either roll it into a construction note, extend it, or start paying interest on it.
Oh, so you're talking about the state's
The state,
part of funding that we've got some money from that. Yeah.
yeah, so we should ask for an extension to cover our bids.
Yeah, so normally the process, the design would happen, we go out to bid, it would happen, but we delayed that for good reason. And the same thing with the beach associations when they're going out to bid to the design to go to construction.
Right.
So we're having the same issue. So,
Right.
yeah,
So,
they have gotten extensions. There's no reason why we should.
we haven't even come up to the term limit yet, but Lee did send us an email, me and I believe Andrea, or maybe Andrea, she forwarded it, saying that we can ask for an extension. So at this point, I think that maybe we should have a motion. Rich has confirmed that our design covers bidding. And so in order to get that bid invoice covered, we should extend the note or start paying it. But I would like someone to entertain a motion to ask the DEP to extend the note 6 months.
I want to mention, I see Martha has it.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with this?
He doesn't know. about the-
Yeah, I'm familiar with this.
Well,
I don't know.
let's stick to the, is that
Oh,
pertinent?
this one? Yeah, from 2024.
This was last week.
This was 2024 is last week. Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Would they extend you? Is this?
Yeah. They'll extend. Yes. Yes, we have an email from,
He said May,
they may extend it.
but he's not sure.
He doesn't get to decide. Lee doesn't get to decide.
I'm
but
pretty
the beach
sure that,
Association's got multiple.
Oh, I had a
extensions.
conversation with them about that. That was one of my questions this morning.
So-
Will they extend it?
So should we ask for it?
yes,
Well,
This
Steve,
is different than what you're talking about. with-
I'm asking, so we have,
This is different.
we
okay,
have, the Clean Water Fund that paid for our design also pays for the bidding process. It's included in the whole loan. All right, it's about, I think, $30,000, or I forget what Woodland Currents charge, but it's a fairly large sum of money that's going to be covered under clean water funding. Our clean water funding note expires in November, this November. So all the invoices against that have to be in. I don't think we're going to be bidding before November 30th. And so we have several options. We could start paying interest on the note. We can roll it over into an interim funding obligation, or basically the construction note, or we can ask for an extension. I think we should ask for a 6-month extension so that it covers our bidding process. And then after that, we'll roll it over into a construction note. Yes, Rob.
I'll make a motion that we request an extension with Connecticut Deep for 6 months.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will.
Andrea seconds. Any discussion? Not hearing any. I'll take a roll call vote on the motion to extend the CWF funding for design for another 6 months. Dennis?
No.
Andrea?
Yes.
Dimitri? Rob? Rich?
yes.
Motion passes 4-1. Could you,
I sent an email right now.
thank you. Yeah, that's been helpful. All right, there's some other items here. Can I make a motion to amend the agenda to include two other items. One is, to discuss, Dimitri has a formula, for EDUs. Why isn't that out there? Well, because I didn't have it. EDUs, that he's developed that I'd like to at least review and have him present. We can maybe have short discussion on that, or we could just have him present it, explain it, and then think about it. We're gonna have presentations this month, next month, and the month after. And then, after that, we'll have discussions on each individual one that's been presented by any of the members, or even if the public wants to submit something. And then we'll, maybe come to some consensus on, the most equitable way to evaluate EDUs.
So your
Um,
motion is to add Dimitri's discussion.
My motion is to discuss, EDU new EDU calculations. And then my other, motion is to, discuss, Carmody.
Do you want to amend the agenda to?
I want to amend the agenda to
That's the
include those two items.
Motion so made.
Any,
For EDUs
Second.
and
second?
Second.
Second.
I'd like
Vote
to
on
have
it.
a discussion about it. Mary at the beginning wanted to mention the 3 items or 2 items that we lost track of between meetings, and I'd like not to have a discussion about it, but to identify what those items are, so we can be
Okay.
sure we're following it.
All right, I don't even know where this goes. Mary,
So that there's 3.
Well,
so it's
we have a motion on the
we have a motion on the table. I guess the discussion is maybe we want to amend the motion to include more items.
That's what I thought. I
That's,
So-
that's the motion.
So, Mary, could you briefly,
So we have to accept the motion.
well,
No,
no,
No, we can.
We're-
You might
discussion.
change it.
it might be changed. Mary, could you briefly tell us the 3 items that were not addressed or are not on this agenda that were brought up at, last month's meeting?
Sure. The first item was that Nixon had asked about the meeting with Deep. And there was no follow-up on that. We understand that Deep didn't have enough people to meet, but there was no follow-up as to when that meeting would be rescheduled. The second, let me see. Oh, the second, well, it pertains to Deep and would go to their meeting. I had asked if Deep's 2% affordable index apply just to Soundview Area B or the entire town, and that has not been answered either. And then Andrea had asked about the responsibility for the bond for Old Colony, and I think we kind of already talked about that one. And in regard to EDUs, there was a discussion briefly that Rich Prendergast had said that he could get actual data from clean water funds. I mean, not clean water funds, I'm sorry, Connecticut Water. Yeah, and so I'd like a follow-up on that, if that has been obtained or what's the status on that. And then also about the EDUs, since it wasn't on the agenda for this month, although you had asked Dennis, Dimitri and I to look into it and to come up with some recommendations. And also then about Carmody and what the status of the Carmody report was, with the 25% of homeowners who were delinquent as of the last report, and what action was taken, and when we would be able to see a follow-up on that.
All right, so Carmody is added already, EDUs were added. The DEP meeting is not, I was not invited to that meeting. So I don't think that's something that, I know the meeting hasn't taken place yet.
Yes, it did today.
Oh, it did? All right, so,
Well, I had a meeting with them.
right, I was not invited. It's not WPC. I mean, I'm sure it was about WPCA. I was not invited to that meeting. Therefore, I don't really have anything to say.
I'm more than willing in public comment to give you an update.
Okay. So, First Selectman Shoemaker will give us a update on that meeting during public comment. And EDUs, Carmody.
Well, the EDU was directed toward Rich in regard, he said he could get actual data from Connecticut Water. And what was the status?
All right, and the status of that. So, yeah, we'll cover that under EDUs. So Carmody and EDUs seem to be the things I've left off under old business. I will address Carmody and then we can do EDUs because Carmody's pretty quick. We've gotten numerous.
See if you're gonna vote on the amendment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Can I have a roll call on the vote on the amendment? Dennis?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Dimitri?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. All right, so Carmody, we sent out postcards to the people that were indicated on the Carmody system that were delinquent. We've had hundreds of homes that have said they have been pumped. They've provided support on some of those. As a matter of fact, someone from Point of Woods, since all the Point of Woods houses are still on there, indicated they haven't pumped in 7 years because they're connected to sewers. So we have to update to indicate if the houses are sewers, either remove them from the report completely. I would prefer that we are able to add a field to not count them or do something to not count them, but still track the homes. Just say that they have sewers instead of septics. Like I said at the last meeting, the reports are only as good as the data that goes in. I don't think the data is old enough to have really accurate results. And what I mean by that is we never verified any of the data going in. And I don't even know if we entered all the data going in. But in 7 years, we should have pretty good data because we're supposed to pump out every 7 years. So in the first year, if they start entering the data correctly, by year 8, everyone should have had their septic system pumped. So it's a work in progress. We try to get the data as good as possible. But there is some glaring things that have been shown on the report itself is that there are a select few pumpers that just don't enter data. And we will try to address that in the future. I'd like to address that in the future. I've read our ordinance. We as a group are responsible for permitting septic pumpers in this town. And I don't think we've really enforced that all that much, but I think a friendly reminder that either on a reasonable basis, let's say a monthly basis, a weekly basis, I don't know, whatever we decide is a reasonable basis, people that pump in this town have to update the database. And if they don't want to, then they don't want to pump in this town. Because it's not.
If you're gonna say something.
It's all right, you can go ahead and then I'll just tell you what we've been.
Data integrity, always a big problem, always a big issue. The more we look at it, the better it's gonna get. So we set the expectation of, we started this software, we played around with it, and we started sending out the notices, which forced us to look at it. We forced ourselves to look at it more frequently. I think we can find ways to improve it. We set those goals. I don't think we need to go to 100% perfect right away. Because we might spend all our time doing that and no time doing anything else. So I just want to try to set some framework of how we can improve all those ideas that talking about. We come in the categories of why the data is wrong, like incorrectly added or software issue or something, or there could be non-compliance in general. Some people just don't understand. I know some people that don't understand why they have to do this. And then others that want it. So just set the level of making improvements, and we've gone from nothing to something. So that's it. I'll be quiet. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So we've had a lot of people come to the door. But I will tell you that, we've kind of been looking at, but I believe the Connecticut general changed to every 5 years versus every 7. Therefore, the pump cards need to be changed. We probably have to put a label on them. But we also probably need to make an ordinance that actually says that you're supposed to pump out and that your pumper is supposed to report your data to the town. Now, one of the suggestions, because of so many people visiting, was charge the pumpers $10 if Erica has to go in and enter all the data herself, because it's she's spending that time doing it. So we should get billed. We should bill them. And now if they're getting billed for 30 people that they had to fill in the data from in a month, then maybe they would start doing it on their own. Or those that actually do it, make them your preferred pumpers. The other people who don't conform, put on your preferred pumper list. And I think too, that maybe at a Board of Selectmen meeting, we actually do a lesson on Carmody, because many of the people in this town don't know what Carmody is. They don't understand that they can go in and look up their address and find out if it's there. So I think it's very important to do it. Doesn't matter. You want to come into the PO?
Okay. I was on the naughty list, but because my pumper didn't report it to the,
Oh, see?
I got fixed.
I checked mine. I got pumped 6 months ago. He did enter it. So I was happy about
I'm
it.
not.
So
on
I,
one.
just to follow up on
I'm-
that, and what if somebody is aware, they get the card and they're aware that they're overdue for the pump out? What is the action that the WPCA takes from that point? Is there a fine or just, oh, please do it? Or what do we do next?
We could find them, but we've chosen in the past that we're notifying and informing them. So it's going from no one told them to someone's telling them. And maybe the next step is what you're talking about, is you've been told multiple times and you're not doing it. So now it goes to something else. We've had residents ask if they can be excluded because they don't think they really need to pump.
I don't think that's an option.
We have never approved any of that.
No, but we follow the Connecticut general statutes in this town unless we write our own ordinance. So,
I think we.
The ordinance says 7
Our
years.
ordinance does say 7.
yes, but now we're not in compliance with the state, so we have to fix that.
It's always been.
Well, I can tell you that over the past, since people have received the cards, I've probably gotten 15 telephone calls saying I didn't know when my septic pump, either they purchased the house recently or whatever, but normally on a real estate transaction, that's septic system is one of the things that the banks look at immediately, and if it wasn't pumped, you have to have a pump. I told them this is a memory jogger. I said, if you seriously don't know, if your septic system hasn't been pumped, go to Carmody, put in your address, and it'll tell you exactly when was the last time it was pumped. And some people might not know of whenever it was pumped.
I don't remember.
So it kind of worked, as much discussion as we had last month, it works.
And the access is on the town's website under the WPCA page, it says septic search right there.
I guess what we could do is make sure that we should be tracking who gets the card this year and compare it to next year. Because if they show up twice, then they're most likely
Deny.
they're most likely more, it would be difficult to say they weren't aware that they weren't compliant.
There's 7,000 houses minus 443 in Point of Woods that have septic systems.
Right, so out of the 2,000 houses that were delinquent, 430 come right off. If they're 430.
That's fine.
Not all 430 Point of Woods were.
Well, that's true. Some have a septic system that they haven't hooked up to, but almost 430. So it's. All right, so I mean, we should do more with Carmody, and we will have more discussions on that.
If you'd like, I'm happy to look out to some of our area towns that are like us in size and find out what their ordinances are for the pump outs and septic, and then you can do a comparison. It's always the best way to start, to do your homework and then compare it and see what you like and what you don't like, pick from it, and then send a draft off to Mike Carey and see if he feels that that's a way to go.
So I just wonder if we piggyback on what Rich said, is we did have a 7-year plan to become whole because we have a 7-year ordinance and started with Carmody. Typically, this is under the local public health services. It's one of the 10 essential services, but it's a really hard one to get them to enforce to do. So we know that we need to take this on. This is why we increased the budget for Erica to spend more time on this.
Editing.
So we could do a better job if given time and resources. So we do have the intent to move forward the best that we can. And it is labor intensive to the card is educational and notifies people. We could try a better mailing to all the town and let them know once we come up with a totally different information. We could send a mailing out to everyone and make sure everyone knows about ordinance and septic responsibilities and Carmody.
We could do it in the beginning of the summer. Or more frequent. I mean, there's
More frequent, maybe.
we there's all kinds of ideas we can improve on.
There are.
Like I said, we're going from nothing to something better.
We have definitely improved. We do have a way to go. We
Right.
have 5 years to go.
You know what?
Right.
You could do it now.
Or 4. I mean, it's-
Actually, in the for your events magazine, for this month, you should put in, if you've got your card, remember to have it pumped out,
Right.
Put some reminders. You want a picture?
I
there.
agree with that. May I just say that, so if you take out Point of Woods, you still have 1,500 properties
Mary, we
that are
can't hear
delinquent.
you.
Mary, could you speak closer to your device?
Yeah.
You're
Okay, can you
coming
hear
in
me now?
Yeah,
Can you hear me now? Okay, great.
yes.
So taking out Point of Woods, you still have 1,500 properties that are delinquent. And I would say that you should at least have a 6-month follow-up. If those records have not been updated, we should go back to those people again and say, you need to pump out or there will be a penalty. And I agree with Martha, and I have looked into this before, that most towns require a 5-year pump out, not 7 years. So that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to correct you. Our data says 1,500, but like I said, I have hundreds of emails that have said they've been pumped out and our data is incorrect. So
Mhm.
I don't want this to be elevated. It's bad data gives bad results. Yes, we said we had 2,000 people or 2,000 residences that appear to be delinquent in their pumping. 400 of them are in Point of Woods, which doesn't need pumping at all. And then at least 300 responses via email saying, I've pumped and this is the record. So now we're down to 1,300. I don't know how many others are planning on replying or whatnot. There should be a follow-up. And you're absolutely correct. There should be a follow-up on those remaining, but it's not. Don't inflate the number when we know that number is not a correct number.
Okay,
Please.
so 1,300, that's fine. Let's go with your
Mary,
number.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so So-
Still doesn't mean, Mary, it doesn't mean they're out of compliance, though. We may not have heard from them, and a lot of those people have already just reached out. They went directly to their pumper and said, why haven't you put me into Carmody? So we didn't even get that phone call. So
Right.
we don't know what the exact number is, so it's just better not to say, we sent out 2,000 cards, we're getting them back, we'll see what happens, and then we'll see where we are after. We can run the same report, right? You can run the same
Run the same
report
report.
and find out who's on the list and then check them off and see what's going on. I will tell
totally
you a
agree,
great
Martha.
story though. A wonderful man walked in today, about 85, 90 years old. He had his card and he said, I didn't know I was responsible for this because I live in a condominium association. And he goes, am I the guy who's supposed to call the septic system? And I said, no.
Right, right. So all those residences.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, he didn't, he's the only one. He said, my neighbors didn't get one. I just was the only one who got one. So he was like, am
Maybe
I
he is the
supposed to
one
be the
that's
one to
responsible.
call?
Yeah, maybe he is. Maybe somebody like the president of the condo
He used to
association.
live in that
Yeah.
apartment or condo.
So,
I just
so
wrote
I
on it.
agree
and
with, I
gave it to
agree with
you.
you. I agree with all of you, and we need to allow some time, but I think that 6 months is sufficient for the pumper or the owner to get back and establish their status. And after that 6 months, there should be a follow-up. It shouldn't be a year or 2 years from now. It should be within 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you. The last item on the agenda, to be amended agenda, is going over the EDUs. And Dimitri, I guess, has worked on an EDU system, which he sent to me. Hopefully I can share some of this with you. And I'll give the floor to Dimitri.
Okay. I have some copies of my calculations. Who wants to get it? And from audience also. You wanna get it?
What are you gonna review for the 8.5 by 11?
Like a
first?
copy.
Yeah.
Unless it's already here.
Here's a copy.
Yes. Thank
There
you.
you go. Here, I have a copy. Well, unless you did another one. Did you do an updated one? You did. I have this one. I'll do this.
All right, good. So I spent time to provide this calculation. I went to the assessor's office. I got those all pages they gave me for properties on Soundview Beach and Area B. I'm familiar with the town very well because I'm a plumber and I was going to many houses. And I've seen many houses on Soundview Beach, on Hartford Avenue, on a shore road are not properly, not compliant with the description in assessor's office. So very difficult to get knowledge. Some properties are not in use at all. They just, some of them not in use since I've been in this town since 1984. They just closed and nobody uses them. And they were one house on Hartford Avenue. It was a rooming house, well, like a motel.
Mm.
I remember it was in use for a couple of years when I came to this town in 1984, but after never used. So it's very difficult to get knowledge how much storage will come from this house. What's gonna happen with it? Maybe it's gonna be teared down and put something else. Like Italian building on a shore road. I know since I came to this town, never was in use and staying not in use.
Mhm.
And I do not know what's gonna be. Some properties listed as a commercial. And I've seen people live in these properties. They are not commercial now. So what I'm trying to tell, my calculation is preliminary. It's not final. We have to find out a lot of stuff before we come to the exact knowledge about what's gonna be on those properties. One property was teared down on Hartford Avenue. And Frank Noy owns it. And I do not know what's gonna happen with this property. It's gonna be multiple apartment building or whatever, I do not know. One more thing that we are gonna face in this area, that supposedly sewer will be built and nothing changed with those buildings that I'm talking about. What's gonna happen? Oh, people would be assigned the EDU, they're gonna pay for it. They're gonna cover this money that sewer installation will cost. Then those properties will become in life. They're gonna be rebuilt, they're gonna be fixed, whatever, and they're gonna hook up to the sewers. They will be assigned money, they would pay for installation also. Those money should be applied to the cost that people owe to the state that gave a 2% interest. I think this is the way it should. And it's gonna reduce some cost of the homeowners who paid for the sewer. So just read my calculation. The main reason of my calculation was to find out as much sewer coming from the building. To make an idea, to have an idea what should be assigned to each house. On a page, this is the page that tells me my experience. That and the best calculation would be to know how much water comes to the building. Most of water becomes sewage, so we know that. So, but it's very difficult to find out because as many houses are seasonal, not year-round. But after sewer come to those houses, they very easily become year-round. This is what if somebody goes now to building department and ask or zoning and ask for converting their property to year-round, even we don't have now seasonal use only in the records. But because of septic system, they cannot become year-round. That's what zoning will tell you. So after sewer comes, I bet you many houses will become year-round. So this would be not fair to have a knowledge how much water Connecticut Water Company records, because that house could be used for summer only. So that's not gonna apply for calculation today. So on a page 1, this is where most I put my opinion of EDUs. We have about 21 bedroom properties listed in those records on I have.
Mhm.
So one bedroom houses, in my opinion, they're the smallest houses. There are 20 of them. So I think we should apply 0.75, 3/4 of EDU. This is in my opinion. And houses, 2 bedrooms houses and 3 bedrooms houses, I think to take 1 EDU. It doesn't count like Steven, you said you want 85%, 85% of the houses become 1 EDU. I could not feel it in it because we have 72 houses, 2 bedrooms. We have 72 houses, 3 bedrooms.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, 2 and 3 bedrooms houses should have 1 EDU.
Okay.
After that, say about 4-bedroom houses, 5 bedrooms. I have a listing in those records up to 9 bedrooms houses.
Yeah,
So in my opinion, would be fair to give water of EDU for extra bedroom after 3 bedrooms. In this way, I provided calculation. On my pages, I was taking, reading how many bedrooms houses we have on each page. I came to the idea that the goal was to establish like 270 EDUs. Those houses that I'm talking about, I do not know what they're gonna be. After all, that's quite a few of them. You can see in the pages. They, I considered, in my opinion, what could be in this property. And I gave minimum and maximum what I think it could be. So I came in my calculation with 272 EDUs to 284 EDUs. So amount, say we have 29.7% of the cost of the sewer, Soundview Beach. So if this amount would be, say, divided by number of EDUs, more number EDUs makes lower cost for one EDU. So in my opinion, that if we are gonna start building the sewer and have preliminary opinion about how many EDUs we have, and after all, more houses will be connected to the sewer. If they pay for EDUs was established to them, this gonna come, I guess, to us back. Because whatever property now not in use, what can you give EDU to them? I've seen also like properties on Soundview Beach. The restaurant has 2 more small buildings. I do not know, are they gonna be used for people living it? Or they used for air condition and have coolers over there? I do not know. We have to find out. So what I'm trying to tell you that my calculation is preliminary. But that page number 1, I have. This is the base of the calculation. That how would be calculated. And the other page is showing my calculation and showing as many properties under question mark and should be checked by our office of assessor's office. So if you have questions, you can ask me. If you want to see those pages, I could not make copies of them. I don't have a printer like that, so.
I can definitely scan these
So-
big pages if you want.
I have those.
You can send them out to everybody.
I'll send everyone your calculation sheet as well as those pages, Dimitri.
So if you have questions, go ahead and ask me, and I'm glad that I can participate in it and help out, because I think preliminary calculation was by square footage. That's like close your eye. You cannot see much reason in it, I guess.
Okay, so
Can I just, go ahead, Mary?
go ahead. Okay,
No,
thank
go
you.
ahead.
Thank you, Dimitri. I have seen your papers as we met, and I would just say that it would be prudent, since we all agree that right now the assessor is in the process of reassessing, and that there are problems with the current listings under the assessor's under vision appraisal. It would be prudent for us to wait until the assessor completes and publishes their revisions in accordance with the 2024 appraisal. I'm not sure if we have time for that, but that's what I would recommend. There are at least 5 properties in Soundview Area B that are vacant and defined as either buildable residential or buildable commercial. We have yet to determine what the frontage fees will be for these 5 properties, nor have we determined as a team what will happen when these 5 properties decide to build. Will that money go back directly to the Soundview Area B residents, as the private beach associations have said they will do, or will it go into the town coffers? So that still has to be determined. We are also not determined how to handle properties that defer hooking up into the sewer system if and when it is established. But when the time is right, I believe, and I kind of agree with Dimitri, but not as linear, that residential properties in agreement with both the EIE and the WC Coastal Wastewater Management Plan should be assessed solely on the number of bedrooms and not on the number of, not the square footage, not on the number of bathrooms. Both of those documents that we base this whole project on only references bedrooms. Residential properties that are part of a residential zone, as we know, cannot change their usage to commercial. They can only expand, and they cannot expand their footprints. So they are pretty much set in stone. On the other hand, I don't agree with some of Dimitri's calculations when he tries to eliminate between commercial property usage as commercial apartments or commercials that are open to the public and not open to the public. The fact remains that those properties are all in commercial zones, and the next owner of those properties, whether they're used today as by special permit, by the way, as partially residential, can easily revert back to being fully commercial and can be easily sold as such. And as such, I believe that all commercial properties should be charged as fully commercial properties, not half of it is commercial, half of it is residential. Because again, if I were to be a business person buying a commercial property in a commercial zone on Shore Road that was currently used partially as residential, I would switch that to commercial in a heartbeat, because that is where I am going to make the most profit. So that is a part of Dimitri's calculations that I don't agree with. That I believe that all commercial properties should be held to the same standard. And yes, I agree that Kokomo's and pavilions probably use more water than, let's say, I don't know, the gas station. But still, they are public, they are sort of open to the public, and they are commercial properties that can be resold as such. So that's my opinion. Thank you. And actually, I do think at this point, it's still very premature to guess what individual property owners will pay for this project moving forward, because we really don't know. Thank you.
Can I answer a question? Mary, my point was commercial properties that have a bathroom, say, that public not using, has a toilet and a sink. And I think those properties that only for employee, they can come to their bathroom. In restaurant, it's a different story. Let me finish. That's
Okay.
why I think that if that store has a bathroom, 2 employees, their sewerage is much less than a single family house has a bathroom, a kitchen, and a shower. So that's why, in my opinion, those commercial properties that don't have public bathroom will get half a deal. This is my opinion. We don't have many of those properties, no, not many, but it's a much more usage of sewage than a commercial property has no public bathrooms, just for employees. This is
Thank
why
you,
I
Dimitri.
put half EDU.
Can I interject a little bit?
Sure.
And this is a conceptual discussion. I don't think we need to get into the weeds on every little detail right now. And and this was to get ideas out on the table. So let's not get too deep into it. It's starting to get late. And let's just keep it a simple discussion as like, I have a question. Are the sheets that you got similar or the same as what Rich sent out or Steve forwarded
I'll,
in the Excel file?
I will,
Because
I
I'd like
think
to know
it's
the
based
basis
on
to some
that,
things.
but I will forward, he sent me this stuff right before the meeting. I'll forward, his calculations in those sheets to every member of, the WPCA tomorrow.
So,
If I could say that the original things was based on the assessor's data.
and this is too.
Well, the Excel file.
The ones that I developed
That's-
or that Frank Chan developed
Yeah.
was based on the assessor's data. Some of the
time.
house, some of the properties have changed the number of bedrooms over the years.
Right. And I agree that, we probably need to wait for the updated assessor information in order to really do this current
I
time.
just,
But can I have one more question, please? Have people seen the Frank Chan stuff? Because that's really good. I mean, it's based on old data. But actually, I looked it up today because I was trying to find it again.
Maybe there's some new members that haven't seen it.
Right. And it's just it's a different way of doing it, but it's an interesting evaluation. And so it's worth taking a look
I will
at.
send Frank's, calculations also. Before you, Dennis, I would like to say that, in determining the amount of EDUs, yes, we probably should have updated assessors information. However, the calculation that we eventually use should probably work on any assessment that's there. We shouldn't tailor a calculation to current. It should be transportable throughout, I believe.
let me give you an example. And Dimitri, myself and Mary sat for 2 hours and we went through the whole thing. And the assessor's cart full of mistakes, on Portland Avenue. It has a house as a 2-family house. Bear with me. Has a 2-family house. That house was knocked down 10 years ago, maybe even longer than that, and made into a 1-family house. If we use the assessor's card, that would be 2 EDUs on that house because 2 separate families. And yes, there are, the house on, or the old hotel on Hartford Avenue was also commercial on the first floor and residential upstairs, 9 rooms. And it was a day occupancy. So there are things, and Mary's correct, that we should wait until the assessor revamps, because maybe now that they fix whatever errors that are glaring, will change an EDU up or down.
So I will check with Melinda, but I was pretty sure that as they come in every day, things are updated as they do with them. But I will check with her.
Yeah.
Because I do think that that's the way it's done. As they come in, they're put in a final pile, and then she and Anita work on those throughout the day. But the second thing I just want to say is I want to thank Dimitri. He came to me, he worked with Melinda and I, we formatted the information. He came back another time because he didn't have part of section B, miscellaneous B, and we took care of that for him. And I just want to thank you for your time because you went
You're
above
welcome.
and beyond.
It's just the start.
I know, and that was it.
I'm not saying it's a final,
No. But it was,
but it has to be start from somewhere.
and just so you know that in talking to some other municipal leaders in other towns, that one of the things that you can consider is when you have an undeveloped property and they come in and you're going to assess them a certain fee if they're going to put up, let's say, a commercial, or you're going to do a multifamily, take that money that you assess them and put it into your reserve fund. Then when you have capital expense come up, you can take some of that off the top and it won't affect the other payers as much.
Right, I think at the DEEP presentation, or maybe my presentation, or maybe in a nightmare. The I believe a question was asked if some other community hooks up into our system. You know, they just get away free. We said, no, they would be charged, just like New London and East Lyme have charged us. We're going to be charging them for the capital improvements. And they said, well, what are you going to do with that money? That money most likely would not be given back to people because people that have paid may have left. What it would do is go into a reserve fund or even operating fund to reduce usage costs for the next couple of years or whatever. But I don't foresee, because it would be logistically almost impossible to give the money back to people that have paid.
Not give it back. I mean.
Well, that's what
That
I'm
was one of
saying.
the suggestions.
One of the suggestions was to give it back to the people, and I don't know if I think we could reduce operating costs or reserve costs for people that are currently using the system. If let's say there's $1 million fee to tie into the system, but I don't see how we would be able to give money back equitably after, let's say, 10 years, because people are going to move, they're going to sell their properties, people are going to tear down properties and build new ones. But regardless, Dimitri, thank you very much. I think it's a great start. I have something along those lines also, because septic systems and everything else is based on bedrooms. But we're going to take presentations for the next 2 more months, and then we'll start discussing and evaluating. So thank you again. I don't even have it on there, so I'm not going to change this. I can cover correspondence next meeting. I messed up on this thing. Next on the agenda, though, is public comment. Thank you for your patience. Is there anyone online? And if you're online, just
Well,
please,
Martha wanted to. Sorry, they can go first.
just please speak up. Make sure you're unmuted so we can hear you and we'll recognize you. Anyone in the audience, and of course, bless you, of course, Martha, if she wants to. I don't know if she's actually an audience member or she's ex officio.
I'm just a resident tonight.
Ex officio here. So, anyone in the. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, Martha, you can make some comments if you'd like.
I just want you to know that I had a wonderful meeting today after receiving this letter on October 2nd. The person who forwarded this letter to me was Emma. I can't remember her last name, but I called Emma and I said that I had read the letter and I would have appreciated a phone call from someone to actually speak to me about what was going on as far as through the town of Old Lyme, instead of making some assumptions or just talking to other people without contacting the person who's in charge of the town. And she said, I think we need to have a meeting, after I went over some of my concerns. And she said, I think we need to have a meeting with you. So I did meet today with about, I think there were 9 people from Deepon. And I told them what was happening with the IMA. I did not, and I have never said we wouldn't sign it. So I do not appreciate some of the comments some people make. I said that we needed to have some questions answered. And that is the way it's gone. I've explained to them that I went to meetings with Mr. Weiner to try to get things going. And then I was told it was coming. And that was in April, and I didn't see it until August 9th. So I said, I'm working through it. And Graham Stevens, who we connected and realized he grew up in Groton, I grew up in London, we chatted. He said, how about if we reconnect in a week? And I said, is this absolutely an emergency? He said, you have a little time. So he said, yes, would we like it signed? Yes. But he said, I want you to be comfortable with it. So I said, thank you. And he said, we'll reconnect next week. We'll email you. And I said, great. So They're okay. They know their schedule. They know about the bids and they can do bid documents and all that kind of stuff ahead of time. They don't need the IMA to get ready for things. So that was our conversation. They answered some questions that I had. I talked about old data for testing and I said, in education, if you're going to try a new idea, you have baseline data. I said, wouldn't it be nice if we had new baseline data and then we could say in 10 years, hey, sewers worked because you could do it again, test again. And they said, well, we don't think spending $40,000 is ideal for right now. That's not the best way to spend our money. I said, okay, that's your feeling. That's fine. And I asked again about White Sands and Hawk's Nest and if they were going to possibly pull those in. Hawk's Nest, I think, is a possibility. White Sands, I think they still feel is too far away, but they'd have to have their own pump station. That's according to what they said. And we talked about that. We talked about Rogers Lake. We talked about stormwater too, because I said, if you're really involved with saving Long Island Sound, how about looking at the fact that every single sluiceway, pier, everything going into Long Island Sound is carrying the stormwater drainage from our roads. Everything that we do, everything points to Long Island Sound from our town. And I said, it all leads there one way or the other. So how are we going to address this? Because yes, you're cleaning up the septic, but what about everything else? And they agreed that's a problem. And they didn't really have clear answers except to say to me, well, you know what? There's more clean water funding money available for that as well. And I said, well, I think you should come to see some of these unique stormwater drainage issues that enter right into the beaches that you come to test. And I said, I know that's not the only issue, but I think you need to be aware of that as well. So they were good with that. And like I said, I'll come to Hartford. You want to come down here? And they said, maybe we'll do both. So I'm good. I feel better about opening up the lines of communication between myself and Deep and not having other people contact them for me.
Oh, that's good.
And that's not you. It's just some other people who do.
I was going to comment on that. I have not called up DEP to tell them your intentions. If asked, I would say, I don't know. I don't think that we're working in the same manner that we did on the last two administrations, but I have never called up and said anything about that. There are other people that are very concerned about this project that
have worked on it for 11 years instead of 11 months.
Or 14, that have expressed great concern about your intentions.
Well, as I said to them, it's my signature that's going forward for the rest of eternity, because once I sign on this, it's not, sewers don't go away.
Yeah,
Stay-
that's why I
You're
said
staying
that.
here.
So
Right.
it's a one-way thing.
That's
One
why I
way.
said that
So
once.
it's not, won't be Bonnie's and it won't be Tim's. It'll be mine. That goes through.
Right. That's
And
why I
Jim
said-
and Jude saying an agreement, and we want to feel comfortable with it. So, to get flow and
I mean, thank you for your comment.
it's the town.
And thank you for coming to the meeting.
No problem.
Love this stuff.
Does anyone else have anything to say? I'm sorry we ran not too far over. Does anyone else have anything else to say?
Time to go.
Time to go.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
So when you mentioned stormwater, Deep City, how's your MS4 program?